Hi, Martin.
Masumi, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Great.
And it's been a lot of fun and really wonderful to play with you here in Tucson and to have some time to share some meals together and some notes.
I swore I would.
You swore.
No, I'm also thrilled. It's been a great time so far. And,
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that will change in the next few days.
Yeah, but we do have a concert coming up, so.
Indeed. A couple.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of concerts.
Yeah.
So you have a beautiful violin in your hands, and I'd love to know more about this instrument and your history with it and how you ended up with it.
Absolutely.
And why.
Well, this is has been a companion for a long time now. This is a violin made by Niccolo Bergonzi.
Have you visited Cremona? Because I think the Bergonzi family is still there. It's like there's a shop, and I actually met.
Did you meet a Bergonzi?
Oh, yeah, I met a
cool.
Bergonzi, and at the time I had an English viola, and he picked up my viola. He looked at it.
Did he sniff?
He's like, yeah, English.
I love it. No, we did play in Cremona, and the funniest thing was after the concert, because as a touring quartet, the Tokyo Quartet's been famous for decades, that sort of thing. You're used to people coming backstage and saying how much they love the concert and this and that, and can we have your autograph, whatever. In Cremona, the stars of the show were, of course, the instruments. Yeah, and I remember each of us had our own dressing room, and it was almost like there was a supermodel that appeared in a bikini or something, because we would bring the instrument out of the case, and the entire room, you saw these eyes popping out, and like and then one or two of them managed to say, oh, nice concert, by the way. That was very funny.
Yeah.
So this violin was made in 1789, the year of the French Revolution.
Oh, wow.
And it's a wonderful violin. Funny circumstances when my family and I acquired it in 1990. I was still a student.
1990.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just recently finished paying for it, so that's a typical musician story.
Yeah.
But I was a student at Indiana University, and I had been to several shops, and the previous violin that I had, which was a Gennaro Galliano, I had acquired from Menig's in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Which is,
so it had the gold plate.
It did, yes. Yeah. And so did this. This is a
really?
replacement. Yeah. I have the original one at home.
Okay.
That's another story. But yes, I went up to Chicago to a couple of the shops, and I had been told by Philip Cass at Menig's about the fiddles that they had, and this one, of course, was among them. And he said, "Well, this one is pictured in the Walter Hama Italian,
really?
that big yellow, the book with the yellow cover of the Italian Geigenbaukunst." Yes, all that stuff. Yeah. So I happened to be in a rival shop in Chicago, and they had the book right there. So it was almost like I was shopping by catalog. I kind of looked at it, and I saw the violin. I said, "Oh yeah, that looks like a nice one."
Yeah.
And then finally I took a flight to Philly and ended up with this lovely lady.
So was it love at first sight?
Actually, I have to confess, at first I took a different instrument away for a 2-week trial. It was a Presenda.
Also from the catalog.
Well, no, that one wasn't pictured, but I thought that one was the one for me, and it became fairly obvious quite quickly that it wasn't. And I just had this nagging feeling about this one. So then when I returned to Philadelphia, I took this one, and we've been together ever since, I guess.
Yeah, so you picked it up and you started playing it and trying it out in different spaces. And
exactly, I brought it back. I think when I first brought it back to campus, I immediately had a piano trio coaching with Tsuyoshi Tsutsumi. And so he was the first one, even before Mr. Gingold, who I was studying with. He was the first one to hear this violin, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's a very fine violin. Sounds really very good in your hands, and you should really go for it."
A ringing endorsement.
Yes, yeah, and I appreciated that because I was young and still, I would say, relatively inexperienced in these matters.
Sure. And so, how has it performed over the years? I mean,
It's performed great. There was one point where it had some fairly major surgery, and that actually I took advantage of the time when I was borrowing another fantastic instrument, a Del Jesu, called the Heath from the Canada Council, and so I had that instrument for 4 years, and so. During the first year of my loan, I took this to a violin shop in Toronto called Heinel's.
Yeah.
And they showed me, they took the top off, and they showed me that when they shined a light behind this area, you could actually see light coming through because it had been thinned out.
Oh, wow.
So they decided to put a bell patch here just to strengthen the area because actually the neck kept buckling.
Yeah. Who do you think, is there any conjecture as to who might have thinned it out? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Who done it?
Who done it? But in any case, they put a new bass bar in. They put the top in a cast, so they reshaped it. And
was that like a year?
It was about 5 months. It was from January to May.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, they did it. They did it quite quickly, and it wasn't a rush for me because of course I had the Del Jesu, and then immediately after the 4 years with the Guarnerius, that was when I joined the Tokyo. So I got that wonderful Stradivarius, which is part of the set, kind of like a company car.
Yeah.
So actually,
the Paganini collection.
That's right. Yeah. It was one of the Paganini set, and so actually, I didn't really play on this violin for about 15 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something like that.
So it kind of sat in your closet.
Well, yeah, kind of. I did bring it out once in a while, and there were actually over the years with the Tokyo, there were some times when we were not allowed to take the Strads to certain places like China or Brazil. Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just worried. They were worried about awful things happening to them or being stolen. So actually, I remember in Brazil, I took the Bergonzi down.
Yeah.
And of course, when the Tokyo Quartet was coming to an end in 2012, 2013, I made a point of regularly playing this with the quartet because it needed to be in good shape for when I left.
Right.
And moreover, on our last concert at Norfolk in Connecticut, we had already given the Strads back. We'd handed them back in London because they wanted them in Europe for various repairs and that. So actually, our last concert was on our own instruments.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I played this on the last Tokyo Quartet concert.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
When you had that repair work done, did the instrument change significantly?
Well, it did, and of course, as it generally does with new wood and also with a new bass bar, there was kind of a breaking in period.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obviously much more stable right away.
Yeah.
I would say, if anything, it sort of helped consolidate the instrument. The instrument always had actually quite a warm sound and a nice bottom register, but sometimes it lacked a little bit in the brightness of the treble. Mm-hmm. So now it's quite different in that sense. In that I think that it has actually quite a nice bright, strong sound, but it still retains a nice a warmth to it.
Yeah, wonderful. And this bow that you're holding. Is this a bow that you chose to match this violin?
This, yeah, I'm not sure I'll go into all the circumstances of this bow, but this is a bow that I acquired much later.
Yeah.
This is a bow by Kunio Yuri, and I acquired it actually when I was in the quartet. But it's a wonderful bow. It actually draws a wonderfully kind of clear and projecting sound out of pretty much any instrument that you use it with.
And in your case, you also have another very interesting bow.
I should have picked up the other one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the gold-mounted Voisin.
That's right. I do have a gold-mounted Voisin. Well, actually, it really is my wife's bow.
Yeah.
But as you well know, my wife is by adoption William Primrose's daughter.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate to be the custodians, I guess, at this point, you could say, of both of his bows, the gold-mounted Voisin, which is a violin bow, hence the reason why I use it. It's on the heavy side, which is, I'd say, a little rare for Voisins.
Yeah.
But it's perfectly balanced and it's wonderful. Well, you tried it.
I tried it last night and it was the other day, and it feels really great, and it sounds good on the viola.
It really does, and I know that my wife told me that he definitely did enjoy playing that. Yeah. But the other bow is a Victor Fitique, which you would have seen in some photos you see in books here and there with the ivory frog.
Yeah.
It's really...
which you let me try in your studio at Colburn.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Oh, now people know where it is.
Uh-oh. Lock the door.
Yes. Yeah, it's all locked up for sure. But so we unfortunately don't have any of his wonderful violas, either the Amati or the Guarneri or even the Menig. I know it was the Menig was up for auction at Tarisio, and I did go to try out the instrument.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was kind of interested in acquiring it, but of course the price kind of went. It soared because that's a real collector's item. And I did once when the Guarnerius was at Tarisio. I had the opportunity to play on it with his Voisin, so I played on Primrose's Guarnerius with his bow, which was that was kind of magical.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you tell me about that experience working with Gingold at Indiana?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
How did you end up there? Because you're Canadian.
Yeah.
And that's like you had to cross a border, right?
Well, in those days, evidently, it was simpler to cross the border.
Yeah, right.
Well, my history with Mr. Gingold went back to, I believe it was November of 1983, or sometime in the fall. It might not have been November, but I do remember that I was 15, and there was a Saturday I would go into the conservatory in Toronto because I lived in Hamilton, Ontario. I would go in for lessons and the chamber orchestra and theory and ear training and all of that. And there was one Saturday that I left the conservatory early with my teacher, Victor Danchenko, and we flew down, actually it was through Cleveland, to Indianapolis on U.S. Air, if anybody still remembers U.S. Air.
Right.
Formerly Allegheny Airways. But so we flew down and we stayed at a hotel somewhere on the ring road around Indianapolis. And then the next day on the Sunday morning, we drove down and I played for Mr. Gingold.
You have such vivid memories of this.
Yeah. Maybe more of all these details than the actual playing. I don't really remember what I played.
Yeah.
But I remember he was very kind and he was the consummate gentleman as he always is. So he said some very nice things, and then he took me. You'll remember the round building where his studio was, and he took me into the vending machines and got me one of those. The little Debbie, the Nutter Butter bars or whatever
really?
They're called. Yeah. He's very, very sweet.
This child needs to eat.
Yes, that's right. I was much skinnier then, I have to say. But then he had a little chat with my teacher, Victor. And, essentially my teacher wanted his opinion, what to do with me, at that point. And, Gingold, I don't do a very good imitation, but apparently he said, "Take him to Nathan or Henrik," meaning Milstein or Schering.
Yeah.
And since my teacher Danchenko had a connection to sharing when he had done the Jacques Thibault competition, I went to spend 2 summers with Maestro Sharing at his master class in Geneva, 1984 and 1986.
Wow.
I was going to go back in 1988, but he passed away earlier that spring.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was in many ways a fateful kind of meeting for me. And then I was actually taking a little bit of a gap year type thing in Toronto after high school. And it just became clear to me that maybe it was time to get out of Toronto. Get out of Toronto, eh? And seek...
Work on your Indiana accent.
Yeah, right. I now speak Hoosier. No, I really don't. But to work with somebody else, I'd considered, of course, all the New York schools, Curtis and all of that. And, of course, I thought about my encounter with Mr. Gingold. And my memory seems to tell me that I'm not even sure. I certainly didn't go and audition. I might have sent a recording, but basically I just called up Mr. Gingold. This was 1987 in the springtime. I said, Mr. Gingold, this is Martin Beaver. I'm a student of Mr. Danchenko's, and I would very much like to study with you. Do you think this would be possible? And he said, yes, of course, or something like that. And it was a much simpler process then, obviously, than the kind of audition, the rigorous auditions that we have to go through today. But I was very fortunate to be able to spend 3 years with him, and I was in the artist diploma program. I was admitted to the bachelor's, and then fairly soon after I arrived, I auditioned for a very scary room with Starker, Shebok, Pressler, Tatsumi, Camilla Williams, and all these incredible
icons,
stars of the musical constellation.
So how did you go from there to the Tokyo Quartet?
Well, it was a circuitous route.
Yeah. Were string quartets, did you want to play in a string quartet? Or?
I would be completely misrepresenting myself if I said, yes, I always dreamed of playing in a string quartet. Yeah. It was not, in fact, something that, I'd kind of been, I would say, raised more on the kind of solo track. In fact, after I graduated, I did competitions. I did pretty well at Indianapolis and Montreal and in Brussels. I always loved playing chamber music. And at that point, my career was I guess you could say like it is now, a blend of solo chamber music and teaching, which I always enjoyed. And in 1995, when my first daughter had just been born, I went out to UBC in Vancouver to teach for a year because Andy Dawes, who had been a member of the Orford Quartet, was filling in with the Tokyo Quartet that year. Right. So it's a kind of a very tenuous, but anyway, meaningful connection to the Tokyo Quartet even back then. That was for 1 year, and then I went back to Toronto where I had been teaching at the conservatory, and then I got a job at the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore. And so we moved down there, and after a little while my second daughter was born, who Anna, and I taught at Peabody for 5 years until I got an email from Clive Greensmith. And Clive was a friend of a very good friend of mine, and we'd never met, but we had done similar festivals. We had done the same festivals at different times. And he said, you don't know me, but we have lots of friends in common. And you might have heard that we're looking for a first violinist, and would you like to read with us? Yeah. And I thought, well, sure. Go up to New York. It's an easy train ride, and it could be a fun experience. And they asked me to play Death and the Maiden, or to prepare anyway, Death and the Maiden, and Haydn Opus 20 number 5, the F minor, which has the fugue at the end. And that was it. So there was just those 2 pieces.
Wow.
And there was no concert. It was just 2 days of rehearsing. And I had been very lucky in that I had received 2 fairly strong endorsements. One from Jennifer Taylor, who at the time was the director of Music Toronto. And the other person was Pinchas Zuckerman, with whom I'd played and recorded. And I taught at the NAC Young Artist Program when it first started. So, they were kind enough to give a ringing endorsement. So I was the last guy they tried, and they offered me the job. So I had a little while to think about it. And while I was thinking about it, I had to play the Glazunov Concerto with the Vancouver Symphony.
Oh, wow.
So it was bizarre. I'm furiously practicing Glazunov because it's a heck of a concerto to play. But then, imagining for the foreseeable future, devoting my entire life practically to string quartets.
Yeah.
I thought about it, and I said to myself, I'm sure there's 1,000 reasons to say yes and 1,000 reasons to say no. But if I had turned them down, if I had said no, thank you, I'd always wonder what would have happened.
Right.
So, I'm preaching to the choir here, that life in a quartet is not always wine and roses. But, I don't regret that decision at all. And the repertoire, of course, is sublime. And that's something that I have to say I miss to this day.
Yeah. Earlier, I asked you if you were dreaming of playing in a string quartet, but I should ask, are you having nightmares about playing it?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing about quartet life. It's actually not really the music. It's more personality issues and just the practicalities of being a quartet.
Right.
And traveling and being tired and being forced to make important decisions and to have difficult discussions when you are on the road, when you're tired, when you miss your family.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah.
As you know.
Life in a string quartet.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
A real pleasure.
Yeah.
I missed your noodling there, though.